Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this, but the world does not revolve around you. A crazy start to a video, but I'm just coming to the conclusion. I feel like there's too many um, self-centered people in this world. And I've talked about this so many times. People don't know how to agree to disagree anymore, is what it really just comes down to. Because people have created this politicalized society where they believe their political views make them a better or more decent human being than other people. And they put themselves on this pedestal as being like better than other people, or deem other people as being worse because they have a different political stance. And all it is showing people's true colors and character. It's showing who the hateful people are, in my opinions. Because if you're someone who goes around claiming another group of people is hateful, yet you're the only people spreading hate, it's called hypocrite. It's called pot meat kettle. When I tell y'all, it's really it's so frustrating for me because I don't care. I don't care who people voted for. Whether you voted for Kamala, whether you voted for Trump, I don't care. I'm going to respect you and treat you as like a human being. I don't think ill or better of anyone based off of their political stances. Do I agree with every person's political stance? Of course not. Right? But I don't base my, judgment of people on who they voted for or their political affiliation, because I think it's stupid. I find that the people who think their political stance makes them better than everyone else are typically some of the most intolerant, hateful people you will ever come across. It's also kind of like narcissistic to think your personal viewpoints on the world are the only ones that's allowed or should be tolerated, and everyone else's is just, I don't know, painting other people. It really just comes down to people being hateful, spiteful towards other people over having a different stance than them. And then also the people who want to label anyone who has a different opinion as being like, you're a bigot. It's not about that. You're just a hateful. It's like you're literally being the most hateful, divisive, intolerant person while claiming that you're that you're better than everyone else, essentially, while doing the thing you're claiming you don't like is what you're doing. And then pretending you're better than everyone else. It's really just a very hypocritical thing. One thing about me, I don't like when people are hypocrites. Like, if you're going to say something, okay. But if you're claiming that you're this loving, kind, caring person who respects all people, but then you're disrespectful to anyone who doesn't agree with you, you're just as much as you're a hypocrite. Because your stances are really just, I support anyone who agrees with me, and I'll be disrespectful, hateful, vindictive, mean, and nasty to anyone that doesn't agree with me. you're not really a tolerant person. You just like people who agree with you. What shows you're actually a tolerant person is you can tolerate people disagreeing with you. You can respect people who don't agree with you. If you can only respect and tolerate people who already agree with you, you're not really doing anything special, at least. I don't know. And then it's just like, and it's like people will hold this viewpoint, right? And then it's like, what if the opposite people thinks the exact same way? You know, you have this perspective, you're better, your viewpoints make you a better, more moral person, and people on the other side might think the exact same thing, just with their perspective and with their opinions. And then it's just like, you can't be so I don't even know what the word is. People are just very I mean, I kind of said it in my last video. I really just think it stems from people making political stances like a moral high ground, when in reality these are opinions, not morals. Opinions maybe should be based on morals, but a lot of these morals that people hold are based off of subjective morals to begin with, and subjective morals are not really. A subjective moral is an opinion. An objective moral is, this is, you know, I don't know. Honestly, I think I don't like watching like debates and stuff like that for that reason. Like, just watching people debate around certain topics makes me upset at times, because I'll see people just be so like condescending, rude. It's like, you can respectfully disagree with people. And honestly, what I do when I'm like, if I'm debating someone, and this is something that, I mean, there's context to what I'm saying, but I'm trying to make it not a big thing. But really, the context is, I just said I don't want to say it. Basically, there is this notion that if you're debating someone and you can't argue against what that person says, it's like you don't like the question that person's asking because you feel like it's twisting your words. What you have to then do is clarify your stance, right? And what I'm realizing is a lot of people get angry and mad and upset when they're arguing with people, and it's cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is what makes people irrationally angry. And cognitive dissonance is when you're met with a logic you know is the truth, but it doesn't align with your already held belief system. And so when that person points out this flaw in your own logic, you're upset, you're angry and irrational because you already understand that what that person is telling you is the truth, and it goes against your already held belief, but you're trying to pretend that's not the stance you hold. It's like people often get angry when they're caught in their own logical failings or logical flaws, logical failures, fallacies, if you will. When people are met with information that challenges their already held belief, but they also know it is true, right? If someone's making up a lie, you can say, well, that's simply not true. That's not what this is. And then clarify, this is what I stand. I did not say that. This is what I mean. But it's also like people don't recognize their own logical fallacies that they hold. And so I often do think some of my arguments make people angry for that reason, because I point out logical fallacies. I also think people don't recognize when you follow their own logic to its conclusion, because people will argue things, and then if I follow the logic of your claim to its conclusion and tell you what that is, and you're upset because you're like, well, that's not what I said. I said, well, this, you said this. Do you also mean it for that? And that is literally how you win a debate if you're debating with people, is to find the logical holes in their argument. And so when you're debating with someone who doesn't know how to debate, that just makes them angry, right? They don't understand. It's like you can only argue logically with logical people. If someone's not a logical thinking person, there's no point in even arguing with them, because they're not using logic to argue with you anyways. They're using emotions. They're using their feelings. They're using their thoughts. They're using their opinions. They're using whatever blurb of information someone else told them. And oftentimes, I'm someone who thinks a lot about things, right? So my thoughts keep me up at night. Like, I think hard about issues, and I like to break things down to simplified ways to understand my own argument, but also to understand other people's arguments. So when I'm hearing someone argue something and I'm trying to understand their stance, I have to follow their logical claims to its conclusion, so I can break it down into a way that I can understand and dissect it, right? It's like, I guess I'm complicating things, but I'm complicating things so I can get to, like, what is the point? What is the purpose? What is the value that you hold? And I often think people get a lot more angry because of the when you create cognitive dissonance in their own logical statements. That's what makes people upset. Now, to make yourself not upset, you would need to make an objective claim. Logical fallacies or cognitive dissonance is literally you holding two opposing belief systems. So in order to get rid of that cognitive dissonance, what you should do is reform a claim that is objective. That way you can say, well, I support this at all times, right? And then you don't have that cognitive dissonance. You don't have that hole in your argument anymore. But what most people do when met with cognitive dissonance, they already are biased to this belief system. They don't want to have to change or reformat what they already believe, so they just get angry and say, you're twisting what I said and you're not telling. It's like, no, what I did was point out you have a logical fallacy as far as you understand this is wrong, but you support this, which is also wrong, but you're claiming it's not the same thing. If someone points out the truth about something, you can't argue with the truth. That's what makes people angry. When you know that person is telling you a harsh truth, because the truth is often harsh. The truth doesn't cater to your feelings. You can feel however you want. The truth is the truth, objectively. So anyways, it's like people don't like cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance makes you feel uncomfortable. And you're uncomfortable because you're holding on to things that are opposing. And to get rid of that, you should reformat your opinion and your claim. But instead, people just say they ignore the truth to keep their claim, their initial claim. That's why people get mad in debates, at least in my opinion. It's really just cognitive dissonance. I just remember learning about cognitive. I'm laughing, y'all, because I definitely overuse cognitive dissonance as like a whole. And it's really just because once I learned what cognitive dissonance was in psychology, I was like, oh, that's why this is happening. That's why it's like when people are trying to hold up opposing belief systems, or have two beliefs that are I'm not using the right word. Counterintuitive. Not counterintuitive. What's the word? Let me Google. Their opposition, conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes. And it's also, cognitive dissonance is basically you being a hypocrite, and people don't like when you call out them being a hypocrite. It makes them uncomfortable because you're saying something but your actions show differently. You claim to care, but then you also don't care. It's like people don't want to feel like hypocrites, essentially. I don't want to feel like a hypocrite either. That's why I reframe my worldview, so I'm not being a hypocrite, so that I can say the values that I hold are objective and not changing, right? I think that's all I'm going to say. So yeah, cognitive dissonance is why people get angry.